Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel in partnership with sharpbetting.co.uk, your home for betting tips and analysis. Please click the link in the description to find out more. Now, we've just seen Chris Billam-Smith beat Brandon Glanton via unanimous decision in the first fight of the night. Give us your instant reaction to it. A good fight to get us started, ahead of a long night of boxing. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a very good fight. I thought it was entertaining in terms of the pace that it was fought at. Since the start, really, there was no kind of feeling out period. It was fought at a high pace, kind of start to finish. I thought the right man won. I had Billam-Smith winning quite decisively. It was a competitive fight, but it was quite decisive in my opinion in terms of the impactfulness of Billam-Smith and the physicality. But I was impressed with Brandon Glanton. Not many of us kind of knew a lot about him coming into this, but he impressed me in terms of the pace that he set on the bigger man, the more kind of physical man, and the shots that he took, kind of the durability and the engine impressed me. But I thought the right man won. But yeah, very entertaining fight, start to finish, really.
Yeah, look, and really kind of consistent scorecards, which is quite nice. And I think, as you mentioned, Glanton did well. I think he'll come out of that fight with a lot of credits. Maybe that was a performance people didn't think he was capable of, but he got it. Billam-Smith got it done. In terms of the fight itself, now, I feel like when it started, a lot of people maybe thought Glanton was going to go on and win the fight. Billam-Smith just, I don't know, maybe didn't look too sharp, and then I thought in the second half of the fight, I'd be interested to see what the actual scorecards do look like, but I just can't help but think that Billam-Smith kind of pulled away in the second half of the fight and won the majority of round 7-12. Is that how you saw it in regards to like, the story of the fight?
Yeah, absolutely. Like as I say, I was surprised with Glanton in terms of the pace he set, from the start and how he pushed. Well, how he kind of got on the chest of Billam-Smith, and got his kind of his back to the ropes. I expected it to be the other way around. I thought Glanton as the smaller man and maybe the quicker footwork. I thought Glanton would be the one to maybe keep it on the outside, use angles, um, use his kind of boxing at range against Billam-Smith, and Billam-Smith to be the one to push Glanton back against the ropes. But it seemed to be the other way around, which was highly impressive from Glanton, and it surprised me massively, to be honest with you. But Billam-Smith kind of showed up close, even when he had his back to the ropes, that kind of experience to kind of make range, make kind of angles for those shots and use his physicality and his clinch work to kind of land the big shots, but also kind of spoil when necessary. So yeah, it surprised me in a way how it played out stylistically, but I do think Billam-Smith grew into the fight and landed the more kind of impactful and meaningful shots, and you could see the difference in experience there, between what Billam-Smith has done resume wise and Glanton. Up close especially, but yeah, credit to Glanton, earned a lot of fans tonight for people that kind of wouldn't have known a lot about him. But yeah, he's definitely put in an impressive performance there tonight.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Billam-Smith's maybe experience perhaps was telling in the end. H- how many do you think Chris Billam-Smith's got left now? This was another tough 12 round fight. Billam-Smith, he can clearly punch, but it just feels like as he's kind of up the levels in his career, his fights seem to go the distance. Kind of, there's not, yeah, really not been that many who have ended in stoppage in his last five or six fights. 34 years old now, but a lot of tough fights. How many more times do you think we can expect to see him in the ring?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, as you say, in terms of age, and he is 34, and coming into this one, there was talk with a lot of people that Glanton could pull this off, especially kind of so soon after the Ramirez fight, where he took a big beating. He took a bad beating in that one. No shame in it, of course. Ramirez is a quality operator, but I think, and we might discuss this in a minute, but I think, cruiserweight it's not a strong division outside of the champions. If you look through the rankings, I don't think it's not a stacked division. It's not a kind of it's not a division of high quality, and I think Billam-Smith proved to a lot of people tonight that he does still have it. You know, he did dig in when needed. As I say, he was pushed back. It was fought at a high pace from start to finish, but he grew into the fight. You know, as we said, he kind of maybe started a little bit slow, but he did grow into it. And yeah, I just think, he's caught a lot of flack in recent years, Billam-Smith, for maybe his style not being the most entertaining. But I've always been a big fan of Billam-Smith in terms of, I like fighters who can do the basics well. He's so physically strong and he can do the basics really well. And he proved tonight that he can dig in and pull out a win. So I think age aside, I think he really still has another run at a world title in him. I really do believe that the division is so poor outside the champions. It really is. And, you look at the fighters that are left, I think Billam-Smith has a great chance against most of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I personally think BILLAM-SMITH might be past his best, and I don't want to see him in the ring too many more times because of the amount of shots he takes, really. But like you mentioned, kind of the rankings there, and Glanton, before the fight was in the top five in the WBA and WBC, and then when you look at the guys kind of ranked above Chris Billam-Smith and some of the governing bodies, Michelle Sislak, who's of course beaten by Lawrence Okoli a couple of years ago, Gulamarian, who's kind of a very inactive fighter, Masternak, who Chris Billam-Smith's already beaten. So that leads me on to kind of probably my final question. No, I think Opetaya we know is in action in a few weeks' time. Gilberto Ramirez is fighting Dorticos, isn't he? Why we're not seeing Gilberto Ramirez versus Jai Opetaya, I don't know. Um, so what kind of the landscape is going to look like in maybe kind of 6 to 12 months? We're not sure because Opetaya could move up to heavyweight if he's had enough of kind of waiting around for Ramirez. Who knows? But if Billam-Smith is going to fight on for another 2 or 3 years' time, can you see him winning another world title?
I absolutely can. As I mentioned, the division isn't kind of strong at all, in my opinion. The names you mentioned there, Chieslak, decent fighter, but probably past his best. Masanak, Billam-Smith already beat him. You've got Reactpar, Billam-Smith beat him in the rematch. In terms of if he fought the champions now, Ramirez, obviously we saw what happened there. He was widely outclassed in that one and beaten quite badly in that one, to be honest. The injuries he suffered after that. And then you have Joy Opetaya. Opetaya, of course, a lot of people very high on him. I I still think I'd still be of the opinion that Billam-Smith would give Joy Opetaya a very good fight. Whether saying that he'd win, I'm not too sure. I'd probably still favour Opetaya, but I think Billam-Smith has enough, is bullishly kind of strong enough to give Opetaya a fight. But if you look past that, if Opetaya moves up, or if other, if the belts become kind of fragmented, if other world titles become available, absolutely Billam-Smith can win a world title. You have the WBC champion as well, Badou Jack. I think Badou Jack is well past his best. Billam-Smith could definitely beat him. He has a fight coming up next week, I believe. But yeah, outside of the champions, I think he beats Badou Jack, but outside of the champions, I really struggle to see who beats Billam-Smith. I really do. You have decent fighters there, but kind of maybe European level max, that are kind of past their best. So I see Billam-Smith really being successful in this division if kind of Opetaya moves up or other belts kind of become available.
Fantastic. All right, now we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. Chris Billam-Smith gets another win under his belt. Get back to winning ways, and we will see what he does next. Now, thank you very much for your time. I'll speak to you again soon.
Cheers, take care.